Hi, everyone. Heather Williams here with the California AfterSchool Network for another Fireside Chat. As usual, joined by Michael Funk, the Director of the Expanding Learning Division at CDE, and he brought two of his amazing staff, Sterling and Jen, with him today. Excited for today's conversation. There's been a lot happening in the last few days with the release of the governor's May revised budget last Friday and also the trailer bill language. So very excited to have you all on talking about what has been proposed, how that's potentially going to impact our programs, all that great stuff. I will just, start us out with lots of good news, increase in funding, and lots of things that we've been asking for. Those have been items that have been responded to in the trailer bill language, and so definitely a moment, an opportunity of celebration, recognizing all of the hard work. There's a lot of funding investment going into expanded learning. So lots to celebrate, also lots to get into the weeds. And this isn't final. This is where we're at right now. It's probably pretty close to what we'll see at the end, but this is the proposed May revised budget. So we still have about 5 or 6 weeks of additional budget activity. Just today, there was the Senate and Assembly both had their budget subcommittee hearings talking about the May revised budget. Generally what I heard today was overarchingly support for the investment in expanded learning. We are now up to $4.8 billion proposed funding for the upcoming fiscal year. And I didn't hear a single person proposing a reduction in that. So that's super exciting. And I think with that, we'll just start to get into the weeds of it. So Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few comments.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. So it is an exciting, just waiting for that trailer bill. I mean, the budget to May revise, and I didn't get to watch it live. And so I was getting texts and messages, and was very exciting, and recognizes the investment and the recognition of expanded learning as a worthy investment and as a critical and essential part of the educational system. We just can't say that enough. And how different things are now than they were, pre-pandemic. So we want to just say that Sterling, Jen, Heather, many people were all over the state, virtually and in person, having conversations with LEAs about the implementation, what's confusing, what's left out, what's not aligned with ACEs. And literally there was a day, I can't remember what month, but several months ago, where I heard that we need your amendments, ideas for this ELO program in 24 hours. So a couple of us got together on a virtual call, and literally within a couple of hours went through the existing education code for the ELO program and put all the things that we've heard from you and put them into the education code as amendment. We actually wrote the amendments, and to see most of them come out Friday night was very rewarding, I must say. So I want to just put a slide up for you real quickly. This is a slide that the Department of Education is now using. It is a recognition that the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program is not a standalone program. It's not in its own silo. It's part of a holistic approach, including universal preschool, universal meals, mental health programs, all the things, community schools, all the things, and a big news today from the State Board on community school funding. So lots going on, and this fits into a holistic approach to supporting communities, youth, and families. So with that, we're going to cut really quick to Sterling and Jen. They actually, when I was busy in other meetings, they were taking the time to get into the weeds and pull out sections of ed code. You're going to see slides that might feel text heavy, but I suggested to Sterling and Jen we keep those in because it's the actual ed code. This is actually ed code that's cut and pasted onto these slides. And because you're watching this recorded, we're going to go pretty quick, but you can rewind it, pause it, look at it, and dig into it as much as you would like. So with that, thank you, Jen and Sterling, and take us away.
Thanks, Michael. Great to see everybody on here, and we're excited to share, this update in the May revision. And so we're just going to dive into it and give you a little bit of background as part of the May revision, which was released on May 14th by the governor and Department of Finance. It really includes the latest changes to the governor's proposed budget based upon the latest, economic forecasts. And so kind of going back in the timeline, on January 10th, actually kind of going back into the 2021 Budget Act, we knew that everything was kind of going to be fully implemented in 2025-26 with the Expanding Learning Opportunities Program. That was really the kind of projection with this being ongoing funding. And so then when the governor released his proposed budget on January 10th of this year, January 10th, 2022, we saw that. We saw this in the governor's proposed budget moving forward, kind of this continuation. So the latest Budget Act of 2021 moving into the governor's proposed budget for 22-23, really showing this acceleration of funding. And so included additional $3.4 billion in ongoing Prop 98 funding, bringing it to $4.4 billion. So really seeing that in action moving forward. And so on May 14th, when the governor released the May revision, it was even more so. We're seeing this intention and seeing this investment and really bringing it up to 4.8 billion. So not just, additional funding, but actually bringing it into full implementation. So very exciting to see that. In addition, this proposed revision also adjusted the rates for all LEAs to $2,500. So you may recall for this year funding, which was about 1.75 billion, that if you were at or above 80% unduplicated pupil percentage, it was 1,170, right? Or below that percentage, it was 672. So this was huge. This is a huge, win for getting kind of that funding out there. It's an increase in the rate and just very exciting to see as we kind of move forward. And also that the implementation was happening 4 years ahead of time, right? So, not just into 2025, but now. So this was a big highlight within the May revision as far as the main program for Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. And so another main element of the May revision, in addition to that, was also that separate pot of funding related to arts and music programming and infrastructure. It also included additional funding for that. So originally in January of this year, it was projected to be about 937 million. And so the May revision increased that by an additional 63 million, bringing it to 1 billion one-time funding. So this is a separate pot of funding, from the main Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. So once again, exciting to see that there's really true investments in investing in the infrastructure and arts and music, to support programming, especially for those that I've heard from different LEAs that they're looking at, infrastructure, how can we really truly support our transitional kindergarten students? This may be a potential area of additional funding to support that outside of arts and music. So we're seeing a lot of movement and increase in investment. In addition, on Friday, besides the May revision summary that was released, we also received the updated K-12 omnibus trailer bill. So another, the trailer bill is, includes some of the detail behind the proposed budget documents and summarized documents. And so this trailer bill, we are excited to see some of the language that Michael and Heather had mentioned, seeing those changes that we have kind of suggestions that we had made based on everything that we've heard from you, right? Everything that we've heard across the state in our virtual road shows in different pieces. We were taking that all in, not only to develop frequently asked questions, but to also adjust, communicate that as a need for on behalf of LEAs and programs. So we're going to dive into this. This is kind of text heavy, so if you need to slow down, feel free. So starting with some of the offer and access components, there have been a lot of pieces relating to which fiscal year, how and when offer and access must be kind of provided. And so one of the elements of the trailer bill that really was kind of strengthened was showing that it's going to take some time to really build capacity and grow a program. We are seeing that within the, this draft trailer bill language, that not only did the, that there was acknowledgement that 2021, 2022 was too soon to implement program, but also that 22, 23, the upcoming school year, we still need time, still need time to grow a program and build it. And especially, retaining or recruiting, retaining staffing, right, has been a challenge. So this really emphasized that, adding 22, 23 to some of this language for offer and provide access is showing that this is still an area to really grow and build a program. And so talking about offer and access, this is really focusing on that shall offer to at least all unduplicated pupils in classroom-based instructional programs in kindergarten through grades 1 through 6, and then provide to at least 50% of enrolled unduplicated pupils. And we're going to get to some of the offer and access pieces. There are some definitions now. Before we had talked about, it's been a challenge, not having definitions or anything within. So the trailer bill language also includes definitions, which we'll get to towards the end of the slides.
Hey, Jen, real quick. This language was in the most recent version of the trailer bill, the 50% is taken out. So that'll come on a future slide. So there's no longer a 50% requirement. That's a big change, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I didn't want people, if you're just looking at this slide, the 22, 23 is what this slide emphasizes, but we got to get to another slide to show that the 50% requirement is now gone.
Yes, we recommend that you watch this full entire video to see all of the changes too. So don't just stop here, continue on. We know you can make it through these slides, and it gets a little tricky too. So that's why we've tried to highlight different words. So look at the purple highlights as we go through the slides as well, kind of emphasizing the changes. And so, once again, kind of going into some of the expenditure of funding, it's changing. Some of the language is really emphasizing that, 22, 23, like we said, it's really needing time to implement and to really grow a program. And so that also relates to some of the funding aspects of that, so that funding can be used in this year, 22, 23, to really grow a program, and provide services. So really starting to that process, not waiting until 2023, 2024 to start growing now, start building a program over time. It's going to take time. So that's some of the emphasis of these, including these specific years within there. And so Sterling is going to talk a little bit about what's changed as far as 2023, 2024.
Thanks, Jen. And as was said earlier, some of these slides are a little text heavy, but we wanted to make sure you all saw some of the changes, right in front of you, and make sure you pay close attention to what's highlighted here. So going into 23, 24 is where we see a lot of the changes occurring. You'll notice that the unduplicated pupil percentage tiers are changed. So right away, you see it's greater than or equal to 75% as opposed to the 80%. That's the biggest change for that tier. What's needed in terms of the requirements is still to offered all in classroom-based instructional programs in kindergarten grades 1 through 6, as well as providing access to any people whose parent or guardian request their placement in the program. So that's one of the biggest changes we've seen right now for this tier.
And Sterling, I want to just say that some have seen this language and said, well, where's TK, transitional kindergarten? And in the ed code, when it says kindergarten, it's inclusive of anything that has the word kindergarten in it, including transitional kindergarten.
And we have an FAQ on that. Go to the next slide. And so this is where you'll see some of the changes that Michael mentioned before. So this is for the tier that's less than 75%. Again, this is starting 23, 24. So you're going to have to offer, right, to at least all unduplicated pupils. And you're going to, all LEAs should ensure that access is provided to any unduplicated pupil whose parent or guardian requests their placement in the program. So no longer do you see the 50% enrollment, which you saw before. This is really for parents or guardians to determine whether or not they want their student in the program. So that language kind of mirrors what was in the higher tier. And we have a additional slide that'll show, there it is, a chart, which is a little better for us folks that are visual, right? So for the blue column here, you'll see unduplicated pupil percentage greater than or equal to 75%, right? Offering to all pupils and then providing access to any pupil whose parent or guardian requests placement in the program. The green column for those less than 75%, right? Offered to at least all unduplicated pupils. And then again, right, focused on the unduplicated pupils, this is where the parent or guardian will request access placement into the program. So I think this is a really good chart that illustrates, the difference that you'll see commencing with 23, 24. And Frontier. So we've had many conversations with LEAs that, are smaller, and they are in environments that, there wouldn't be a ton of folks to staff programming, and they were really concerned about, what were their next steps. And so we're excited to see that some of the language that exists for ACES for those locations is now being adopted for now into the ELO program, which is for frontier geographical locations. And for that, they would have 8 hours as their requirement as opposed to 9 hours. And that 8-hour requirement would be for the, instructional days through the school year, as well as during the 30 days of non-school days or intercession.
Sterling, I just want to add to that, just make sure people understand. This brings the ELO requirements for Frontier in alignment with what's in the ACES Ed code, because in the ACES Ed code, the Frontier designated sites also have less hours as a requirement. And that has to do with extreme amount of time that people have to travel to get to the school site, et cetera. And people have said, well, there's other small school districts that don't fit the Frontier designation. And by the way, the Frontier designation is the school, not the LEA, which is kind of complicated because ELO-P goes to the LEA. But if the program is at a school site that is in a Frontier designated area, then it can be 8 hours. We'll have more opportunities to unpack all this as it gets farther along, but just wanted to throw those couple things in.
Thank you. And so this was another big one. I've been told that we should address them as they are, and some are small, some are big. This is big. We heard from many LEAs that there was concern about staffing and just really having an opportunity to build capacity, especially as staff are going to be now facilitating TK and K. And so there's now, again, alignment with ACEs that LEAs can provide up to 3 days of staff development during regular program hours. So this was something that, was causing a lot of distress amongst the field. And we're happy to say that, this is now included, within the omnibus trailer bill. So staff should, really take advantage of the opportunity as well as the LEAs. Another big one, there's now alignment with the licensing exemption that is within ACEs. That's through 8484.3. And, I think a lot of folks that are familiar with ACEs are knowing the next question, and they're going to ask about, well, what about intercession and summer? And so there are conversations now where there will be potentially an increase in the hours that are allowed to operate without having a license. That would account for a program running 5 days for 9 hours during the summer, which would be 45 hours. So it's something that we've been thinking about and we're hoping to see as a change in the future. Something else that we've been hearing from LEAs is just about their responsibility. So, all LEAs that are receiving funding, must provide this opportunity to pupils. And then, if they don't, they'll be asked to return a portion of the money, which we'll see on a future slide. But one of the things that also came up was, what if there are students and or family members that don't want to participate? How are we going to document that? What happens? Are we going to be penalized? So now there is language that supports the fact that there will be families that choose not to participate, right? And that's okay. So people's opting out and deciding not to participate in an ELO program opportunity, there wouldn't be a penalty to the LEA as a result of that. So this again goes into the penalty. So this language isn't new. What we wanted to point out here was that it includes now the frontier sites. So still looking at the same penalty for districts being 0.0048 times the district's apportionment, and then each day that they failed to meet the day or hour requirement, and then it's 0.0049 for charter schools. But again, just pointing out that now frontier sites are included within this space. So 672, you may recall, was part of the less than 80% tier. That was the funding level in the past. We're happy that has been changed. Jen mentioned that earlier, that it's going to the $2,500 amount. So this is kind of showing where it's been now for 21-22. And if we go to the next slide here, you'll see kind of where we are going forward into 22-23, right? All LEAs will be receiving the $2,500 per unit going forward. So that's another big win that, should allow for, more funding, more opportunities. We didn't see an increase in the base level of funding, but this could, help some of those LEAs have an increase in the amount of funding that they get as an apportionment.
That came up so much, Sterling, about the 50,000 minimum grant is not enough. And I want to just tell people that in every opportunity we could, in hearings, in writing, in conversations, in specific detailed recommendations to the folks and the administration and the legislature, we pushed for that amount to be increased. It was not changed. However, to put some concrete thinking to what Sterling is saying, with the new rate, if you have, if the number of units calculated with by your unduplicated plus their average attendance TK through 6, if that's 20 pupils, then you make the 50K. So anything above 20 pupils, then you get above the minimum grant. So I just wanted to break out that math a bit and just to communicate that we really did hear you and really did advocate for that.
And so this slide is, just the caveat that, if there is not the appropriate amount of money within the budget, then there would be reductions to LEAs on their apportionments. That being said, we feel really encouraged by such a dramatic increase in such a short period of time and the investment going into this program that we're, feeling confident that, there will be money for LEAs to continue to run program, and even more, it seems, going forward. Literacy coaches. So this is something that we're seeing come up a little more, and it's just the ability to hire literacy coaches to support, ELO program enrichment activities. We see this as an opportunity to, help with reading levels, even possibly a call out to supporting EL students as they're part of the unduplicated pupil count. So, literacy coaches can be just another opportunity to provide different opportunities. This slide talks about the carryover of funding. This might be the next one that we create a chart for. Basically, the funding, the apportionment for 21-22 can be carried over to 22-23. The apportionment for 22-23 can be carried over to 23-24. However, you cannot snowball the 21-22 apportionment to the 23-24 fiscal year. I think I got it right. I'm saying not. Okay. Go to the next slide. And so we're also, big win, excited to see definitions within the omnibus trailer bill, and they are very familiar. We see them now in our FAQs. So we've been using some of this language as we've been talking to different groups, different LEAs, but now it's in writing, and we're really, really excited to see that. Again, so offer means to recruit, advertise, publicize, or solicit through culturally and linguistically effective and appropriate communication channels. So we feel like that's the best way for LEAs to kind of move forward, understanding that there's a lot of opportunity there that's pretty broad, and just to align it with, how you now communicate with your families, right? Text messages and emails. Sometimes LEAs are doing, the group meetings in the gymnasium, right? There's just a lot of different things that can be used here for the offer. And provide access. I won't read all of this, but if you've been a part of some of the other Fireside chats, you've probably heard the library card analogy. Again, just providing an opportunity for students to be engaged in program based on the enrollment form. So that is what provide access would look like. And something we wanted to call out here is that there is mentioning of transportation. We got a lot of questions about that early on. And so that is included within provide access now. So you want to make sure that there's a signed enrollment form on file. That would include providing the access for students, and then also providing transportation for students that attend a school that is not operating an ELO program. So if the LEA has received an apportionment and a student is at a school that is not operating an ELO program, then they would be entitled to attend another school that is, providing that opportunity. And this gives the definition for frontier, and refers to a program that's operated at a school site located in an area that has a population density of less than 11 persons per square mile. So this is definitely for those very rural sites, but just so that there's clarity in terms of what the definition is and what areas are eligible. And just a final call out for our FAQs. Again, we appreciate a lot of the feedback we're getting, a lot of the questions and conversations. Those really help develop our FAQs and encourage us to have conversations with other divisions that then lead to future FAQs. So those can be found at that website. And we're really excited about there being 26 in total now. And they also have a lot of different subheadings, so they're easier to find. And we're gonna be including a few more in the upcoming months. So keep a lookout. I'll pass it back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Charlie. I think, there are a lot of questions that are surfacing now that this new language is coming out. So, as we know, we're going to have to collaborate and connect, especially too on some of the frontier pieces. We have frontier with ACEs already and, a list, but then, that surfaces other questions. So, bear with us as we too have questions and kind of navigate this new language, but very exciting language, very optimistic, very positive, very, beneficial for programs. So excited about it. And I'm going to do a shout out to Sterling because he does a lot of the FAQs, and it's quite a, collaboration too with different divisions. And so building that, it takes many, many layers that not everybody knows, but just a shout out to him too.
Thanks, Jen.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen and Sterling. I think we can pull down the slide deck so we can see everyone's wonderful faces. All right. Well, thank you both. Yes, definitely appreciate all the time and energy you put into the FAQs and going through all the details. We know there's a lot of nuance to the program, and so trying to make sure that folks understand all of the different pieces of that. Much appreciation to you both. Michael, any comments as we close out, or anything you wanted to provide more clarity on, or anything else you want to share?
No, I just thank you, Sterling and Jen and Heather, always for hosting. I just believe that the combination of seeing the text and also hearing us talk about it can help provide different ways of learning about this. And as has been stated, this is not the final. This, the trailer bill is still being debated in today's hearings in both the Assembly and the Senate. And so there's a road to go, but we're thankful that the direction we're going is incredibly positive. And I just want to say, we had the big event last Wednesday. Heather and Ken and the team did a lot of heavy lifting to pull this off, and we had a lot of amazing content. We had over 800 people at some point in the day log in and experience what they were wanting to hear and be connected with. I always talk about the flexibility, and the phrase that was shared with me in a meeting with the administration and ledge staff was, listen, if the ed code doesn't say you can't, then you can. I want to balance that a bit. That is true, but the money needs to be spent on the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program and to support the students. It has to be spent in accordance with the program plan that is passed by your governing board and posted on your website. And we are still working with various conversations about monitoring and finance and those types of things. There are things to be worked out, but I've had some feedback, well, if it's that flexible, then I could do X, and so I just saying to you all, the flexibility is there in order to provide the students and families what they need in the spirit and in the purpose of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. So with that, a lot of technical today. We don't have as many stories. We don't have as many examples. We will be bringing those back. I just want to give a shout out. I visited Stockton Unified School District on Monday and was able to visit with 2 elementary school after-school programs and spent a lot of time with the kids and talking to the kids, spent a lot of time talking to the staff. Many of them had been there 5-6 years. And I just want to give a shout out to Stockton Unified. These kids are loved. And I said, you always hear me say, lead with love. And I saw love in action. I saw kids who were known, seen, and supported. And so that's your moment of inspiration for today. And Heather, thanks a lot for always bringing us together.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Jen and Sterling. And until next time.